My father didn't whisper it. He waited until the entire table was quiet, looked straight at me, and said, "If we're being honest, you're the child we regret having." The room froze. My aunt's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. My sister stared down at her plate like suddenly the mashed potatoes were the most interesting thing in the world. My mother didn't even pretend to correct him. He said it like it was a normal observation, like he was talking about the weather. And the worst part wasn't the words. It was the way no one at that table seemed surprised. Sunday dinners at my parents' house had always been uncomfortable, but that night felt different from the moment I walked through the door. My father had that calm, controlled look he gets when he's about to make a point, and apparently that point was me. "You've always been the difficult one," he continued, leaning back in his chair with a glass of wine. "Your sister made us proud. She followed the plan. She stayed close to the family." Then he pointed the glass slightly in my direction. "But you always thought you were better than us." My sister shifted awkwardly, but didn't argue. She just kept quiet, which in our family basically counted as agreement. I felt the heat rising in my chest, that familiar feeling of humiliation spreading slowly under my skin. For years, I had been the family disappointment, the one who moved away for college instead of staying to work in the family business, the one who didn't call every week, the one who built a life that didn't revolve around their approval. You left the moment you had the chance. You stopped caring about this family a long time ago," my father continued. My mother sighed softly beside him, like she had been carrying the burden of my existence for decades. "You've always been stubborn," said she quietly. Stubborn. That word again. It was the same word they used when I refused to join the family accounting firm after college. The same word they used when I moved to Chicago instead of staying in our small town. Stubborn was their polite way of saying disloyal. My uncle finally tried to lighten the mood, chuckling nervously. "Families argue," he said. "It doesn't mean anyone regrets anything." My father didn't even look at him. "No," he said, firmly. Then he looked straight at me again. "Some children make life easier, others make it harder." The message was clear. I was the harder one. My sister finally spoke, but not in the way I hoped. "Mom and Dad sacrificed everything for us," she said softly. "You could at least admit you've been selfish sometimes." Selfish? I almost laughed, because the truth was the exact opposite. When the family business nearly collapsed 8 years ago, I was the one who stepped in with money from my savings to keep the doors open. When my parents were behind on the mortgage 2 winters ago, I was the one who quietly wired them enough to catch up. But those things were never mentioned at family dinners. Instead, I was the regret. My father took another sip of wine, looking strangely satisfied. "You've always thought the world owed you something, but family comes first, and you never understood that." That's when something inside me finally shifted. For years, I had tried to keep the peace. I ignored the insults, the passive-aggressive comments, the quiet way they rewrote history to make themselves look better. I protected them, protected their image, protected the version of our family they showed the world. But sitting there at that table, listening to my father calmly announce that I was the child he regretted having, I realized something. They had no idea what I knew. They had no idea how much I had actually done for them. My father was still talking, still explaining my failures to the table like he was presenting evidence in a courtroom. Some kids just never understand loyalty. That's when I finally set my fork down. The small clink against the plate was enough to stop him. I looked around the table slowly, at my sister pretending not to watch, at my mother sitting quietly beside him, at my uncle who suddenly looked very interested in his drink. Then I looked at my father. "You're right," I said calmly. The words confused everyone. My father frowned slightly. "You regret having me. and for a long time I thought that was my fault. The table went completely silent. But regret usually comes from guilt, I added. My father's expression changed instantly. What exactly are you implying? He asked. Instead of answering, I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin folder. I placed it gently on the table. Inside were bank records, transfer confirmations, signed agreements, all the documents proving how many times I had stepped in to save the family when they were about to lose everything. The mortgage payments, the business loans, the emergency transfers, all the things they never mentioned, all the things they quietly accepted. I slid the folder across the table toward my father. You regret having me, I said softly, but without me, you wouldn't even have this house. For the first time that night, my father didn't have anything to say, and suddenly, everyone at the table wasn't looking at me anymore. They were looking at him.